Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome to your weekly horoscope video for the week of September 1st, going all the way through the 7th. And this is a power-packed week. We've got a lot going on in terms of motion, not to mention this is an eclipse week. This is what we've been building up to, that full moon lunar eclipse happening in the vibration of Pisces. I'm hoping you have checked out your full moon lunar eclipse video, which I will tag here and put at the end of the video so that you can really get into the deep in the meaty of it, and also continue to grow your own astro fluency about how to speak that eclipse into your chart. I literally gave you a guide to be able to help you to do that. Now, we also have Saturn sliding back into the vibration of Pisces. Mercury is shifting into Virgo, but making multiple aspects during the week. So we're going to have a little bit of fog, a little bit of disruption happening there. And Uranus is going to take its retrograde in these early degrees of Gemini. So there's a lot of endings, there's pivots, and there's redirection of energy this week. So you're going to want to know what's going on every day this week so that as you have your meeting or you have that doctor's appointment, you kind of get a vibe as to what's going on in the sky. Because here's why it matters. Eclipses matter. They are turning points. Saturn moving backwards is putting us in this position right away of telling us there's something about boundaries and spiritual accountability that is back for us to be reviewing. And that Uranus retrograde really was the last outer planet shifting to bring us into the new world as we are going to build it going forward. But it's going to make us review our voice, how we're using information and ideas, which is really important for all of us to be having a look at right now. Now, if you haven't already seen it and watched your video on Pluto going out of bounds in the vibration of Aquarius, that is up. It is on the channel. It is ready for you between now and November. That is something you're really going to want to check out because we have these waves of intensity that we are all experiencing, and where they're happening in your chart, you want to be able to get in there and really work with that. Not to mention, I've put the Venus Reset program back on sale. So those of you who've not had an opportunity to jump into it, you can. This Pluto energy, the changing dynamic of the outer planets, the call to Venus to being able to receive, have a relationship with rest, have a relationship with softness, being able to do less and get and attract more out of it is absolutely necessary at this time. So jump in. All of that is available for you in the description box down below. Take advantage of it while it is on sale, okay? Now, timestamps will be in the description box down below as well for every day this week, so you can go right where you need to go and see what's happening. Let's jump in. Right here on Monday, as we're coming in, the moon is actually traveling through the vibration of Sagittarius until we get into the evening. We'll have a short void, of course, and then the moon is going to guide us through the vibration of Capricorn. So the shift between the Sagittarian vibration is, it's inspired and we're more lifted. It's a lot more optimistic. We're looking more to the skies, right? There's a lot more fire. We're maybe even speaking more how we feel, or we're more sentient in how we're feeling and expressing ourselves. And then we move that moon to a very grounded, earthy reality. But it is a cardinal moon. So as we're coming in on Monday, we are prepared to get it started in here. We are prepared to get it started, but in a more grounded and earthy kind of way. Now, on the same day, we've got the major headline of the day being that Saturn is going to take that retrograde and slide it back into the vibration of Pisces, where it's going to stay until February of 2026. Now, the first thing to note about this is that Saturn has already worked all 30 degrees of Pisces. So I want you to remember that and take that with you as an act of grace this week and for this rest of this transit. You have seen and you have been strengthened in some way as Saturn came across and was demanding discipline and mastery in this Piscean area. So you do have that with you as Saturn is rolling back, right? You have the wisdom to work with as well. Now, this is going to be Saturn's final pass through Pisces, meaning Just what hasn't been resolved, these last loose ends that you are tying up. Saturn's returning back to these degrees to bring it closure. But I think that the real question that Saturn is asking us as we're sliding back is, think about it like when Saturn moved into Aries, it was like, I'm going to have the discipline to take myself, Aries, in this direction. I'm going to do, I'm going to build these things, right? But it has to be done on a foundation of something more solid in terms of spirituality. So I think that Saturn is asking us as it steps back into this Piscean area is, how are you structuring your relationship with receiving, with rest, with compassion, with spirituality? Are you taking responsibility for your inner world as much as you are for your outer? Right now, remember, you have the wisdom. If you've stepped forward with Saturn being in Aries and you were trying to build something or go in a particular direction or shift your vibration, and it was like, I can't quite get it. That's okay, because the indicator here, as Saturn is coming into these last degrees of Pisces and doing this last tour through here, may be for you to go, I need a little bit more spiritual weightlifting here, or I need to forgive myself, or I need to forgive that resentment and extend that compassion, right? And it can be uncomfortable as we're traveling in this, because it's a period where we're going to be shown in one way where we've maybe been doing self-sacrifice and calling it compassion, and that's not really what it was. Or we're in like compassion fatigue, right? I think the other things that we're going to see, especially if the entrance of Saturn into Aries was particularly challenging for you, those early degrees, you might be seeing where you've been numbing out to something instead of doing that inner resting, receiving spiritual work. And it can leave you with understanding why you need the discipline in that space. Why I would say come and join the Venus Reset program so you can reset your relationship with receiving, with rest, with softness, because Saturn, particularly in Pisces, is going to reward the discipline. So it's a perfect moment here, not just on Monday, but as we're experiencing the rest of this transit going until February of 2026, to recommit yourself to learning that receptive practice, and not just learning it intellectually, but to actually receive. How do you receive from people in your life? How do you receive and rest and care for yourselves? Are you giving yourself the nourishment and the nutrients that you need to have a relationship with that? How's your sleep hygiene? How's your forgiveness and compassion hygiene? How's your spiritual practice? These are all questions that come up in this time. So on Monday in general, it is a great day to build rest and spirituality and discipline, restart it, build it into your practice. Now, what I will say that I would advise as a part of your strategy to just avoid is the martyrdom and the self-pity, the poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. Like, the self-pity bar is always open, and they always want you to have a little drink in there, because all you're going to do is talk about you and pour me a drink, right? Let's look back at where there can be the accountability. That's the answer when we're dealing with tutor Saturn. Okay, on Tuesday, now we're going to have Mercury moving into Virgo, but first, Mercury is busy in the morning. So we've got Mercury coming into a quincunx before it's going to leave the Leo terrain with Saturn, who's over in Pisces. Now, the quincunx, and I've talked a lot more about it this year, and I definitely talk about it in my school GAFA, and we talk about it in the book, but the quincunx is an adjustment. It's an adjustment aspect, because they just don't understand. The two signs don't understand how you would like to get something accomplished, right? So it's an adjustment. You feel like there's like an itchy tag and you can't quite get it. It's the itchy tag in the middle of your back. So it's a miscommunication, because we're dealing with Mercury here, and Saturn has just recently had this slide back just one day ago into Pisces. So it can feel like here on Tuesday that someone isn't hearing you, or you're second guessing your own words, or there's this lack of surety about it. Now, with Saturn in Pisces as well, I think that there can be this doubt between, is this my head or is this my intuition? You know what I mean? Now, remember, the tension here is not permanent. It's not a permanent adjustment. It's not going to be a long-term adjustment. It's just a chance to pause here on Tuesday and say, hold on. Is this practical? Is this responsible? What am I communicating? And how can I just realize if there's a miscommunication that we maybe need to have a reset? Now, just later in the day, we're going to see that Mercury actually moves and gets out of that fiery Leo energy and into the comfort of earthy Virgo terrain, which is one of its home signs. So, just in general, when a planet comes into home court terrain, things get a little bit more comfortable. It's a major shift for us in terms of clarity. And we also experienced Mercury in Leo doing some retrograde as well. So there's been some sense of informational fog that has kind of been going on. And now, as Mercury comes into Virgo, which loves facts, right? I'm a Virgo rising. We want them facts. What are the facts? I'm fact checking everything. I want the details. I want precision in my thinking and in my words. So there is this nice dose of clarity that comes with that. So expect here as you're traveling on Tuesday, especially in the second half of the day, that conversations can become sharper. They become a little bit clearer. You're maybe doing a bit more planning on this day, or planning even feels more natural as we're traveling with this vibration. And it's tends to be a little bit easier to focus as well, right? Like you get a whole bunch of information that's in front of you, or you're able to pick up a pattern really easily, and it's not laced with so much drama. Now, it can be uncomfortable as we're experiencing the Mercury and Virgo transit, because Virgo can be persnickety. It just can be. It can be overly critical. It can be nitpicky. It can move from discernment into judgment, right? And it will not think that it's judgment. It will think it's using actual discernment, but it's actually judgment. And the judgment, that judgment knife can be turned back to ourselves really quickly and easily as well. So watch where the critic, whether it's the inner or the outer, might be presenting itself as we're moving into this energy on Tuesday. Instead, know that Tuesday as a day in general this week is really good for refining, editing, focusing on wellness, things that are going to demand a bit of precision. Now, Mercury stays working hard on Wednesday. It is a busy day. Mercury is under a fair amount of pressure. So just up front, Wednesday is going to be a great day for observing what's going on, for reflecting, for doing some brainstorming. It is not going to be a great day for casting a really strong judgment on something, or unnecessarily jumping. Don't jump into a debate or an argument that doesn't need to be there. Okay, so what's happening on Wednesday is that, first of all, Mercury is hit right into this quincunx with Neptune, who's still retrograde and in the vibration of Aries, and then also into one with Pluto, who's in Aquarius. And then in the midst of that, too, there is a square to Uranus, who's in Gemini. So the translation is Messy Wednesday. It's messy mental Wednesday. When we get there, the information can be all over. Our thinking is sharp because Mercury's in Virgo. But the aspects are reshaping the picture in how Mercury is working with the information. That Neptune's bringing a little bit of confusion because I'm having to go back over, who even am I? That's very Neptune in Aries. Who am I? What's my ideal? What's the ideal that I'm growing to spiritually? Is this my intuition or is this my head? That can be a very Neptunian set of concepts. Power struggles over with Pluto in Aquarius. And this is not just the power struggles of where you're confronting your spiritual and shadow side that is maybe stopping forward motion or blocking you in some way, but also in the new shape of the world that is out there, where we are the current world builders. Who are you? What's the information going around you? Where are you feeling weak? Where are you feeling powerless? Where are you feeling like it's all moving very quickly? Remember also, Pluto is out of bounds. So we are drawn to the shadow sides of ourselves and needing to look at that. I encourage you to watch your Pluto out of bounds video, okay? And then we've got the square to Uranus in Gemini. So this brings a sudden glitch or change of direction or sudden piece of information. And the truth here, I think, that can be a bit uncomfortable is this is Mercury. So our conversations and our thinking can be distorted, right? Or it's like, this is the day where every tech issue is like spiking. You're like, what's going on? It's not even Mercury retrograde, right? Or you hear news around you, and the news itself feels unsettling, but you've got to check the facts, because if it's a situation that is information given to you, but it feels a certain way, but you don't have the clarity around it, moving and slipping to some kind of extreme or getting overconfident or over paranoid, these are real actions that can skip up on us as we're here on Wednesday. So I would not be forcing any kind of decisions or information on Wednesday if you can avoid it. On Thursday, now we've got the moon that has shifted into Aquarius, right? Now, we're also going to see that Mars is going to square Jupiter, but as the moon shifts out of really earthy Capricorn and shifts more into innovative air of Aquarius, it shifts the emotional tone of how we're going to navigate in general, right? An Aquarius moon, an air moon is visionary, it's intellectual, it wants to think and talk about how it's processing information or feelings, but it can do it in a way that's also a little bit more detached. So if what's happening for you is you have a feeling that you want big picture solutions, that you are wanting community connection, you're wanting tribe, you're wanting to feel freedom, right? You're wanting some ease, you want freedom from drama. That's what this lunation can be showing you. And I think that after Messy Mental Wednesday, your sense of safety or grounding, maybe even your nervous system here on Thursday, may be craving that. So, something that you can dig into this day is to first of all talk, write, journal, get it out of your head. Let the emotions or the experiences that you've been having actually come out of you. That is a great way for an air moon to process what it is that they're feeling. You think about it and then you need to talk it out, and then you kind of get clear on what is going on. But the bigger aspect for the day is that Mars is in a square to Jupiter. Now, Mars is in Libra, Jupiter is over in Cancer, okay? So, as we're going to experience this particular square, it's the 911 aspect. The square is the 911 aspect of astrology because it's going to make you do something. You feel like you're being squished or pushed or positioned in a way that is really tight or there's tension here. Mars wants the action, Jupiter wants the expansion. But the square means that if you just go about it any kind of way here on Thursday, the chance to overdo it or to just blow it is really high, right? We want to push ahead faster than than our knowledge allows us to. I heard this guy on I don't know, it was YouTube, TikTok, Reels somewhere, but it was this beautiful African guy, and he said, "You are running faster than wisdom can catch you," and that is what I think about with this Jupiter and this Jupiter and Mars conversation. So think about it on Thursday here, that we've got to kind of slow the roll a little bit so that you're not taking on more than you can actually manage. Now, remember, if we're flashing back as well to the beginning of the week, we're talking so much about being honestly, spiritually, and discipline level accountable for our rest, for how we receive, for coming into an understanding in that receptive space, very Venusian, that you're not valuable just because you're producing. And this may be a day that challenges that, where you're like, no, I can do it, but realistically, you cannot manage it. So, a harsh truth may be that if you are watching yourself, especially at the end of the week, overcommit, overpromise, acting out of pride because you have a story about what it means to be doing, or you find yourself in some kind of conflict, because this is a square, so you could be in conflict with someone else where you feel like that's not fair or a boundary's getting pushed. This is going to be something to be really watchful. I would say on Thursday, pause, first of all. look around and say realistically, even if I'm feeling fired up about taking something on, doing something, moving towards something, can I do it? If you can and the energy's there, act with courage, expand gracefully, go towards it, be fair, right? Like all of that would be great words. But this chasing some kind of glory, being overindulgent on Thursday, I'm telling you, that is writing a check. If people are still using those, that your Heine cannot possibly cash. Now, when we get to Friday, we're going to be experiencing a really long void of course energy. So, first of all, when we're in the void of course, so we're coming into the void of course with the moon having moved from Aquarius into the void of course position. So that's what we're taking in is that Aquarian energy. So at 4:51 p.m., and that's New York time, is when we're going to start this void of course energy. And it's going to go very long until we get into Saturday late morning at 11:54 a.m. Now, on Friday, that void of course energy is, first of all, a reminder that the universe is kind. This challenges your relationship with rest, receiving, softness, and not needing to push forward all the time. But the energy itself during void of course is flat. So if you're trying to start something up, something new in particular, it's confusing, the momentum's not there, you're feeling like you're having to drag it out of you. And then when we get into Saturday and the moon makes that connection to, or moon makes that movement into Pisces and the energies click back on, that thing you were trying to start and do and work on usually falls flat. It's like it falls apart, it just disintegrates. Instead of being a time to launch those new things or make major decisions or expecting to get really clear on some kind of outcome that was presented to you, Friday's energy is actually a lot better for finishing up things that are in your space. It's great for resting. It's great. It's frustrating. It can be frustrating because here you are, you've gotten a little, I want to get into this action and momentum energy. And then we hit a void, of course, and it could be like, things have stalled. Or it feels like if I don't do this right now, this project is just going to slip through my fingers, right? It won't. It just won't. It's going to be on better footing on the other side. So finish up what you can or what you had already started and already been working on. Rest, review, work on things quietly behind the scenes, use it for cosmic downtime, have a dance party. Love to see you in the Venus Reset program, but it's not going to be a day on Friday for forcing things. Plus, Friday is a Venus day anyway, so come be in the goodness. Be in the goodness. Okay, Saturday, we've got the last part of that void, of course, moon happening before the moon shifts into the vibration of Pisces, bringing more of that softness, that compassion. There's more emotional depth, there's creativity that comes with it, but that's not really the major headline. The major headline for Saturday is that Uranus is going to step into its retrograde in Gemini. And this is, again, going to take us all the way until February of 2026. So now, what we're looking at is that all of the outer planets and all of the tutor planets, which are Saturn and Jupiter, they are retrograde. So we are essentially in a hold. The new world that we brought in, this is as far as we're coming in the newness. So that's good news for us because it means we get to retrograde and just work on what came in, right? And orienting ourselves to, okay, this is the newness. Whatever's in here is what needs to be handled, right? It's like cleaning up a room. It's like you don't want 5 more rooms to show up and you've also got to clean those as well. You're like, okay, whatever's in this room is just what I need to work on, straighten out, understand, process through. Now, when Uranus is retrograde, this is an internal revolution. It's going to turn that energy that we need to work on and work out and get refamiliar with internally. So instead of pushing for all of this outward change. It's asking us to examine where we're stuck internally with old ideas, outdated ideas, narratives that don't work, communication and information that doesn't work anymore. How do you communicate, right? Your communication style, it's all under review. And as Uranus is in this Gemini position, we're also going to continue to see breakthroughs in how we talk about AI and other technology, media, just language in general, because the retrograde is our indication that all of those things that will again be a part of the new world we're building are getting their review and their reassessment, right? Now, if you have Uranus retrograde in your birth chart, or it can have, yeah, let's look at it in your birth chart. If you've got it retrograde in your birth chart, this is actually a time where you may be coming out more. You've already worked on that internalized stuck energy, right? You've been indoors. And so now you may be a part of the grouping of people who are actually our communication change leaders, bringing that internalized information into an external space. So other people are running in, you're part of the group that's running out. I'm part of the running out group. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you have Uranus retrograde in your chart or no? Are you running inside during the retrograde or are you running out? So that's going to be a big energy here on Thursday. I would use it. There's very reflective. Again, it's Uranus. So I still just think watch out for the technological things happening in your life and in your world. So just keep that in mind that those are things that they can be spiking up. But it is a great day and it's a great cycle in general for being really innovative, getting new words, new experimentation, examining assumptions and ideas that we've had about all sorts of things. Pay a lot of attention to flashes of genius or insight that you get, because that might be the title to your next book. That might be the title to this, that, or the third. That place that pops up in your mind might be telling you all you need to look at the astrocartography for Sicily and see what that means in your life, right? There's a lot of good that comes from it as well. Okay, as we are wrapping up the week, listen, it has been intense. We have been under this eclipse energy, but Sunday is when we're actually going to do this full moon total lunar eclipse in the vibration of Pisces. This is by far, I think, the star of the week. Right at 15 degrees. So make sure you locate that 15 degrees of Pisces on your chart. Again, please go back to your resource of watching your lunar eclipse in Pisces video, because I have a worksheet for you to actually see how this is happening in your chart. You guys ask me, what does this mean in my chart? I can't tell you, but I've got a resource for you so you can start to sort it out yourself, okay? Because the eclipse is a pivot point. This is still our full moon where we're going to be asked to end something, acknowledge something, or make an adjustment. We need to pivot, but we also need to have a bit of a celebration here. Something has been built in the Pisces area of your chart. You have shifted, you have changed, you have had revelations, you have had endings, you've had massively emotional breakthroughs. There's had to be forgiveness, the spiritual fitness over there. There's been a lot happening. There's been a lot happening. And in the total Virgo Pisces axes, we've been really working on and looking at balancing our daily material lives and what we're doing and our spiritual surrender, right? This dance of softness has absolutely been on the table. So as we're approaching this eclipse, I do want you to take that moment to have the celebration, but also to be looking at where you're going to pivot. Now, the challenge I think that comes with every eclipse, particularly a total, is that we're in the dark. You're in the dark. You're getting a complete and utter reset here, right? The eclipse often brings endings, and those endings can be working through over the next 6 months, but you don't always see it. You're not always so entirely in touch with exactly the way that it's going to happen or the way that it's going to go. Now, is it great? Maybe a job is going to end, or a bad or unhealthy habit is going to go. Maybe there are secrets that are revealed, but we are not always super privy to them, which is why the emotions, I believe, run extra high at eclipse times. So this is where you're really going to want to be digging into your own astrology. Yes, maybe it's happening in the seventh house for all this particular grouping of people, but do you also have other planets in your house that are going to give us those connection tips to say, here's what's ending, and here's where we can plan for releasing the perfectionism, embracing more faith, and making space for you to have this fresh start on the other side. This is really where the astrology gets juicy when you're looking into it for yourself. So as we're here on Sunday, going through the weekend, really moving through the intensity of the next 2 weeks because we've got another eclipse coming. I really think that September is an energetically lush kind of space, right? It's almost touchable, tangible, but it doesn't mean that it is all clear. But what it is really going to be good for is honing in on your intuition, soften, looking at where you can have some surrender, and putting your head where your hands are. This is going to be the absolute best usage of the energy that you've got this week. So jump into that Venus Reset program, help anchor into a little bit of rest. I love having you here where we walk through our aspects every single week. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. And if you do not have your own chart already, click in my description box down below to get one, because you want to see, where is Saturn in Pisces for you? Where is Uranus retrograde actually happening for you in your particular chart? All right, beautiful friends, I am going to put the Pluto out of bounds, and I'm also going to put the lunar eclipse in Pisces video at the end here, so you can click right into them and let this information percolate, marinate, crock pot just a little bit more so that you have a lot more clarity on how to work with this. All right, beautiful friends, I love you, and I will see you next week.